Hello, fellow detectives. Welcome to Unlocked, the official podcast for all things Nancy Drew from Her Interactive. I'm your host, Tammy Tuckey, and this week we welcome voiceover artist Meaghan Halverson to the show. Welcome, Meaghan.
Hi, Tammy. Thanks for having me.
It's so unusual to be talking to you now because I remember a couple years ago when they had posted, I think an intern had posted video clips of some of the recording sessions. It was like the first time we had ever seen anything like that. And I think it was you and Rob Jones as Joe Hardy. It was for the, oh, you know what? It was the Deadly Device, I think those recording sessions were for. So it was so interesting to see you guys work, behind the camera because usually we don't get the chance to see the face of the voice, you know what I mean? So, it's just it's so cool to be talking to you now.
Awesome. Well, it's my pleasure.
With the character of Deirdre, which I know a lot of people know and love, you kind of come to love and hate her at the same time, as a character herself in the Nancy Drew universe. So she was introduced in Alibi in Ashes. So can you tell me about the original audition process for her character? Did you know who you were auditioning for, or were you just putting your voiceover work out there for her to listen to?
Yeah, that's a great question. Gosh, I can't even remember how many years ago that was, but that was right around the beginning of my acting career. I was a fresh graduate from college, and I was just going on these auditions and testing the waters, seeing what was out there. And I remember getting the invite to audition with Her Interactive and just being so excited. It was my first voiceover opportunity. And when I went in, I actually interviewed for multiple characters. There was like a handful of them that they had me read little sides for. And when I read for the Deirdre character, there was kind of like this aha moment in the room. They were like, oh, yeah, that fits. That fits really great. Cool. Okay, Deirdre. So it all kind of just came together in the room in that moment.
When you're playing that type of character, what kind of feedback did you get originally from the director on Deirdre overall?
So one of the things that I ended up doing was just getting really big with my body behind the microphone. So everything that you hear in Deirdre's voice is like being acted out in my body at the same time, which is kind of a funny visual. Like, you're in a little recording room with the mic right in front of you and the lines right in front of you, but your whole body is kind of like living in the mystery, in the moment. So while your voice is what's being captured, you're channeling all of that emotion, all of the motives, all of the obstacles that are happening for Deirdre into your body. And then, the vocals is what ends up coming into the game. And I remember getting kind of like funny feedback from the folks I was recording with at Her Interactive, being like, wow, you're so animated. And I think that's just the way I work as an artist. Like, it all comes from the body for me and then shows up in the voice.
Well, she's a very dramatic character, so I would only think that you would have to be dramatic with your movements and everything, right? So
exactly.
And she was such a hit that they brought her back. So, instead of just a visual character, she's a phone character this time around. So and she's also helping Nancy. I think that was one of the main things, because she was also, a suspect in the original one, Alibi in Ashes, and Deadly Device. She's helping Nancy. Did you ever know any Deirdres in your own life growing up?
I think we've all known a Deirdre or two, or at moments in our life, even been a Deirdre at times. I think she's a wonderful character to represent the shadow side of people's personalities. We all get jealous about something at some point in our life, and we all have at moments tried to manipulate situations in our favor. So she's a really cool character because you kind of see little glimpses of Deirdre-esque behavior all over the place. But it is really fun to like channel that into like one character and make it super over the top and just super fun to play, like really leaning into kind of those dark, sassy, kind of like angry emotions, but that are really hiding something where someone is kind of like hurting a little bit.
The fact that she has to compare with Nancy, who we all know is just not, one of the most perfect detectives out there. And she has a boyfriend with Ned, and we know Deirdre has a crush on him. So it's like, how do you compare? And yeah, us girls and guys have all felt that at some time,
Right, yeah. Yeah, and Nancy just usually presents as such a picture-perfect character,
Yes.
She's so smart, she's so successful, she has the boyfriend, everybody loves her, looks to her for advice. And it's like Deirdre takes on all of the qualities that Nancy isn't, that don't show up in Nancy's character. So they're wonderful foils in that way.
I kind of more connect with Deirdre now after playing the games for years. It's like, oh, I can see where she's coming from. There's like layers there. So, you don't like to always judge a book by its cover. And Nancy's never been mean to Deirdre. I guess Nancy can sense exactly what's going on there. And Deirdre just doesn't really like to, own up to that.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. It makes her feel vulnerable, I think, to like have Nancy like kind of try to understand her. She's like, what? Why are you being nice to me?
And bringing her back for Midnight in Salem, we get, a Deirdre who is even more, nervous and worried about other things, and also putting in more trust into Nancy as a character, right? So what was it like kind of jumping back into the shoes of Deirdre and playing another side to her?
Oh, it was so cool to see them like flesh out Deirdre in the writing in this third game. Just such a cool opportunity to really delve into the nuances of this relationship with Nancy and kind of, in some ways, like play out some fan fiction fantasies too. Like, what would it be like for these two characters to like have a closer relationship where they rely on each other? What kind of conflicts and vulnerabilities will arise? And I think you see a lot of that in the game. It really creates some awesome character tension and some really cool places for the characters to like develop in response to each other. Like, while Deirdre remains her sassy self, there's like some awesome character growth for her that I think is just wonderful to watch and really gives a lot of life to her as a game character.
When did you get that call that she would be brought back into this newer game?
Oh, I think it was, well, they had been talking about it for quite some time. Every time I would go in to record for the other games, they would always kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Deirdre will hopefully be coming back. So I've always kind of like had my ear to the ground, like, okay, tell me when you're ready, because I'm ready. But I think it was this summer when we first started doing the scheduling for the recording sessions. Yeah, and then it all started coming together. We did about 2 days worth of recording, long, full days, and put it in the can, as they say. It was surprisingly not too hard. I was a little nervous about it up front just because it had been such a long time. But the writers do such a great job of like imbuing the Deirdre essence into the scripts. So when I started just reading what they had sent me, I was like, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. This is who Deirdre is. This is what I remember. And I know how to read this. I know how to like sell this. So it came together pretty organically, even though I had felt a little anxious about stepping back into her shoes. But I was so thankful for that. They just have such a great writing team at Her Interactive. They really knocked it out of the park, I think. So the kind of fun thing that happens when we're in the recording studio is I have all of Deirdre's lines, but I don't necessarily have the other characters' lines in front of me. So as we go through the script, the content producers are kind of filling me in on what's happening with each individual scene and line. So for me, the story is kind of building as we're moving through the script. So that was really kind of a cool process to like have Deirdre make the discoveries that she's making in this story kind of live behind the microphone. So I have a general idea of the character arcs and of some of the nuances of the mystery as they unfold. But so much of it was discovery in the moment, just because I only had Deirdre's lines. So they're like, okay, this is the room you're in. This is like the setting. This is who's present. And this is the line they said right before you're going to say your line. So it's very live. It's very, just happening in the moment organically, which is a fun process. It keeps you on your toes. And like you just remember what this character is about, what their motivations are, what their obstacles are, and then kind of like ping pong those ideas around you with each line. Just because of the historical context of the place and then the way they, kind of set it up visually and describe it in the script, I think just really set a nice tone for this particular mystery. And then, the historical implications of witches, especially in like this current cultural climate, is a pretty interesting moment to sit with. And the idea of like the fire and the cave, I think really adds a lot of suspense to the game as you play it. Just this like impending danger feeling. It's very prescient. And even when I was in the room doing the recordings, I could like kind of feel like the power of this location, of this story, and the way they set it up, just kind of giving me goosebumps as I was reading.
And have you played any of the other games?
Yeah, I've played the ones that Deirdre have been in with my little sister. And it's actually pretty funny how scared we get, like playing them in our basement at night with the lights off. Like those sound effects are so good.
They are.
Totally give you chills when you're like home alone at night with just like the glow of the computer screen and like the creepy music playing in the background. Like we would so scare ourselves. Like it was ridiculous. And they're so hard. Like these games are like real challenges, which is so fun to just like get in there and stick with it and immerse yourself in the story. Like so fun.
Is it weird to hear yourself in the game?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's very strange. Yeah. Like Deirdre's voice does take on like certain sassier qualities than my voice, but it's close-ish to my natural voice, as you can probably tell. So yeah, it's very strange.
Well, I hope it won't be strange to kind of step into Her Interactive Theater and talk a little bit to Deirdre herself, because she's such a popular person with the Her Interactive fans and crowds. So, Deirdre, it's so wonderful to welcome you on the show of Unlocked. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Tammy. It's so good to be here. I just have been looking forward to this interview with you.
A lot of people love you, and a lot of people could describe you in several different words, but how would you describe yourself?
Oh, well, let's see. In so many words, kind, compassionate, smart, witty, intelligent, beautiful, attractive. Oh, I could go on and on.
We never really get to know you too much when we first met you in Alibi and Ashes, but what are your favorite pastimes when you're not involved in a mystery?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, let's see. I'm very busy maintaining my look, I have a manicure every other day just to keep my nails super fresh. I hate a chip. So I'm very busy with that. And let's see, I love to go shopping. And I don't know, I like to cruise around town and just kind of see what everybody's up to, make my rounds, check in on all the groups around town and see what kind of gossip I can dig up about them.
I know you have sometimes a partner in crime with Nancy, because sometimes you guys have to team up and solve a few mysteries. Do you remember your first time that you met Nancy and what that was like?
First time I met Nancy Drew, oh my gosh, I'll never forget. She was such a noob to town. I don't know. It took me a while to kind of warm up to her. But now we're good friends and we solve mysteries together. She's the best. I just love Nancy Drew.
Now I sense the sarcasm. Well, now in River Heights, you got that awesome milkshake shop. I was always kind of just wondering if I could have any milkshake, which one would I pick? But in your preference, because you probably know more about the shop than I do, what is your favorite type of milkshake to get there?
Oh gosh, probably strawberry.
Is there any like specific one that you would like to make at some point, and it would be called the Deirdre?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe like strawberries and cherries, like something really sweet and pink.
And my last question to you is regarding, mysteries. It seems like this is a knack for you now. I think that you and Nancy are good buds on this and partners in crime. But if you could go ahead and explore any mystery that has ever been, you know what I mean? What would be one that would grab your attention and you would love to solve?
Wow, that's a great question. I'd be really into international mysteries. So I don't know, maybe solving the mystery of the missing Library of Alexandria. That seems right up my alley. Or perhaps exploring something in Paris. I don't know what mysteries they have there, but I'd sure love to dig some up and then do a little French shopping on the way.
That sounds great, Deirdre. And you know what? I'm so happy that you got to partake in another mystery with Nancy. It's always good to see you come back in the games.
My pleasure, Tammy. I can't wait to solve another one.
And scene.
Yeah.
What was it like to kind of read the pieces where you got to interact with the Hardy Boys this time?
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, it's kind of nice having some more masculine energy to play off of in the game. Like young teenage masculine energy. But it was so fun, yeah, for Deirdre to almost have these like little brothers kind of a thing. To kind of play off of. Like, what would it be like if Deirdre had little brothers in her life? Not that they're much like younger than her, but yeah, just thinking about how she would interact with teenage boys is pretty funny.
Are you working on any other projects that you can kind of tell us about so we can spread the word? And also your website, if you have one, or social media pages, because I'm sure we all want to stay in touch with you.
Oh, that's such a great question. At this moment in life, I am actually back to grad school. So I'm kind of taking small projects on the side, but nothing big at the moment. I'm in school to study clinical mental health counseling and art therapy. So that's where I'm channeling most of my creative energy these days in kind of a different direction. But yeah, it's been super fun. And I'm also excited to kind of, when the grad school part is over, pick up a little more voiceover work on the side. So more to come, but probably down the road a little ways.
Well, before we end our conversation, I have one more question I ask to all of our guests, which is if you could describe your experience working with Her Interactive and being a part of the Nancy Drew universe using one word, what word would that be?
One word. I only get one. Okay, I have to think for a second. I mean, the word that's coming to my mind after you first asked that is adventure. Like, I never knew what this would yield when I walked into that first audition. And it's just been a really cool long-term adventure ever since. And I'm really excited and thankful for that.